Welcome to Haxby Shed and part 4 of me servicing this Harrison universal milling machine, which was new to me quite recently. In this video you'll see me putting the table back on, trying out the main motor, realising that the bearings did need to be changed and getting that motor out. I also get the table motor running. But just to keep you kind of interested and up to date, I'm going to put in a clip right now of running the spindle at full speed, 1500 RPM, after I changed the motor bearings. But there's a lot of work in between the two because I found that the motor shaft was too short and that had to be extended. But anyway, all that will be in future videos. I hope you find this useful. I just want to check how easily this top slides. There's a bit of rust there, there's a little bit on the track, but not much. It was easy enough to move it when we brought it here. 3/4 spanner, 19mm. Oh, I need more Weetabix. There we go. Obviously one of these was still nipping. I'm such a weed. Needs a bit of a clean up. Well, I was going to take this beam off using the engine hoist, but because of the splayed legs of the hoist I can't get the crane in near enough. I mean, the crane's coming to about here and I don't want any accidents, so I'll wait until I've got a proper hoist mechanism set up. But you can see what it's like. It's not terrible, but it could do to come off and have a clean. And with just a bit of oil on the slides, easy. I'll take it off later, like I said, and give it a proper clean. Here's the motor in the base. Now it says on the side plate to grease the bearings on the motor, but I don't see any grease points on this motor. It's flange mounted and these are captive, but this is just on a plate and then the motor bolts to that plate. And the screws for that are not captive. It's got 3 nuts on the back. So, do you know, what I think I'll do is I'm going to put the table on and then I'll run the motor with no belts and then we'll just see what it sounds like. Because I do think that it's a little bit noisier than I would like. I mean, it's not terrible. I don't feel any movement in the pulley. But you can see perhaps this isn't long enough to get the motor out of this hole without being disconnected, and it'd be a lot of work maybe for nothing. So let's have a listen to it first, I think. So next job then is to get that table on and then get the electrical connections fixed up. This is the suds pump. There's no inverter for this. There's 2 inverters in the base, but this one doesn't have an inverter, so I don't know if it's broken or if simply they just didn't want to pay for 3 inverters. I'll look out for a really cheap inverter. Strangely, you can't buy really cheap ones because I don't need a VFD. Any old inverter would do, you know, just converting single phase to 3-phase. This cable, which is sort of free and flopping about, might have gone to the light unit, which was up on the side there. But that's disappeared, which is what you'd expect really in the days of LED torches and so on. All I'm trying to do here is to get it the right way up. These 2 table eyes that I've put in here, they're not that great. I'm going to jack it from this side just so that you can see what's going on. Once I get it sort of upright, whoops, then I'm going to put some extra straps on it. I just want to see whether I want to see where the balance point is as well. Hopefully nothing was damaged there. No, it looks all right. Right, so I'll get it off the deck at this side to be level. It is darned heavy. I'm going to do a bit off camera. It's distracting me trying to talk to you. Right, I've got a bit more confidence now. I've got another 2 straps on, here and here. And in case you're wondering, these that go under, they go over the top of the screw. They're not pulling on the screw is what I mean. They're close to this table. Right, I could do with it a bit more tilted, but I don't know, we'll figure it out somehow. Ooh, balance isn't quite right, is it, even now? Well, it ain't gonna reach, so I'm gonna have to shorten those straps and extend that boom. The microphone failed here. I should have lowered that knee. Here I'm extending the boom, and I put a strap across the top. And I should have taken the opportunity to improve the balance of that table. I could really do with 2 people now, but I've put a block of 1 under there, and I'm just hoping it'll get me into a position where I can lay it on. Hold your breath, folks. Let's move it a bit. Well, we may be in luck here. But when I take the block out, obviously it's going to do that. It's so heavy. Right, I'll let that down slightly now. Shouldn't walk under that really. Right. Ooh, that's lining up nicely. Did you notice that I had the screws 90 degrees out? Oh, I can just walk it, I think. Yes, that one's in. What's this one doing? That one's in. Oh, come on. Now I just need to get it to sit on that circle. Hey, come on. Right, hopefully, just let it down. Hey! The eagle has landed. Well, the nuts are too tall to get onto that thread. I didn't think of that. So I just need to lift it a bit to get those on. Well, that's been a job, but it's on. I don't have a spanner that fits in at the back. I haven't got the room. I need a cranked over spanner. It's 3/4. This bed is in really good condition. Hardly a mark on it anyway, you know. So I think the next thing I'm going to do is clean the parts I couldn't get to from underneath. I'll have to remember to put these stops on here before I wire the thing up and use it. I don't want the motor running it to the end and smashing something. This lid has to come off the gearbox. It's lifted up at the back, as I said. It leaks when it's upside down anyway. Don't know, I'm guessing somebody put a screw in that was too long. Can't be sure yet. That's the next step. And then I'll wire it up and power up the machine and see what the motor sounds like with no belts on. That's nice, isn't it? So we're coming to quite an interesting bit, I think. See what's going on here. And why this lid is a bit loose and springy. I've said several times, I think maybe the screw's too long, but having pulled it out now I can see that it isn't. But these two are a lot shorter. Actually, 3 different sizes then. Oh, gasket, what are you doing? What do you think? I think this has been some kind of repair. Yep, look. I think that's broken and pulled through. Oh, look, and that's a bit pulled there. So this has had a knock as well. There's something down there I don't like the look of. See if I can get to it with a magnet. Oh, it's maybe just the shape of the casting. Well, what I found in there was this piece of aluminium, which didn't seem to do any harm. The gearbox itself looks lovely. So that's motor drive, handle, motor drive, handle. But looking at this lid, that's a bit swollen there, and the hole's a bit out of shape. That is quite swollen there. You can see they've tried to use a washer as a kind of patch here. So they've put in a counterbore and put the washer in. I don't know quite what they hope to achieve with it. That's cracked around there. So all and the hole is huge, look. So this all needs building up. This might be where my TIG welder earns its money. Right, these are the change wheels for the speed of travel of the table. And a complete set has 8 gears. So I've got another 6 up here. So I'm very lucky to have the full set. Now, according to my friend Tony, these are based on Myford change wheels. Apparently you have to do some adaptation. I mean, I don't have this experience, it's just what he's told me, and he knows generally what he's talking about. So if you're short of your gears, take a look at the Myford change gears. I don't know what model of Myford, but it'll give you some lead to follow. The gear combinations for the table travel speeds are on this table here. So on the A wheel, I've got a 59, and it must be a 22 on the B, which gives me 31 millimeters per minute of travel. And you can see, you know, further down, those same pairs work in combinations which can be swapped over. So I could have the 22 on the A and the 59 on the B, which is down here somewhere, there you are, which would be 225 millimeters per minute, so that would really fly. These gears are secured by a split nut, and it's got a screw in it to lock it there. This is just another view of the same with the other 6 wheels. The drain for this gearbox is just under here, look, and I'm as certain as I can be that this has never been taken out, because it was a devil to get undone. I've cleaned this track out here, and I'm going to put these on because I want to pass up on the opportunity to smash the table by overrunning it. Because sure as anything, when I get everything connected and I get excited, I'm bound to forget. The cable for the table travel safety switch goes in there. Get this plate off, there's a terminal block just behind it. We'll get that connected up, then we can try the motor. I made a diagram and took lots of pictures of this. Better screw this plate back on because I think it performs an earthing function. I can't see what I'm doing. Not at all. Well, first off, we'll hear the inverter start because you'll hear the fan on it. And the inverter's down here, just there. slightly noisy fan, but it's one generation older than the inverter in my lathe. I'll maybe be able to change that fan, I don't know. I could bring the inverter out anyway and then I'd have variable speed control. I don't even really know which knob to turn. Let's try one of these. We should just hear the motor run, that's all. No, obviously not. Turn that on. No, turn that on. Well, it sounds pretty dreadful, doesn't it? So that motor's going to have to come out, but I haven't understood these switches because this is supposed to reverse it. Okay, some investigation needed there. This, I don't know what that does. I think it might be for the table, not sure. This turns the main motor on and off. That does nothing, but it should be the reverser. This is the switch for the coolant pump, but there's no inverter on it. Yeah, there isn't. So that's for future investigation. But it's quite nice to hear the noise of that motor, because that's what I thought the noisy noise was. I'm just going to put the belts on though, and we'll just see what it sounds like with the belts on. That'll add the noise of the gearbox. Belts are on now. Actually, the sound of that fan on the inverter is not offensive, is it? I'm happy with it. So we'll just run it in neutral. Okay, we'll now put it in some gear or other. We'll go in the low range and just pick a speed. 2, 3, 4. And now we'll just do 1500. I didn't notice any increase in noise, did you? I mean, it's just playing about, really. That's good. Okay, motor out next. Get this vent off and then I can get to the bolts that secure the motor. I'll have to disconnect the motor before I remove it because the cable is too short, as we said earlier. And I'll also, look, clean out some of this stuff, swarf. Well, something to begin with S anyway that I can't say on camera. I've loosened off all the flange bolts and I've taken a couple out actually. But next job is to get this plate off, take some photographs of the wiring, disconnect the wiring, get rid of this snake here, put the motor on some wooden blocks, take the last 2 screws out of the front panel, the flange, and wriggle it out. I've zip tied the cables randomly red, yellow and blue. I'll take some more pictures of this and we'll undo those nuts and get those connections off. Time to get those last remaining 2 screws out of the flange. Whilst we're here, this suds pump, I talked about getting an inverter for that, but my friend Tony's reminded me I could make a little static converter. Basic, could be just a capacitor to start it, run it on 2 phases, or alternatively, you know, with a run capacitor and a start capacitor and a relay to drop it out. We'll see. It's darn heavy, this thing. I took the flange bolts out because I didn't want to adjust the plate with the slots in because the belt adjustment is just fine. There's the motor plate, 1.5 kilowatts, so that's 2 horsepower. There's no date on it, but the mill itself, I've worked out from the serial number, was made in about 1974. I decided I would wire up the table motor. Now, all of these bunches of cables come in a PVC sleeve, but the cables for the table motor, these black ones here, were just kind of loose and dangling around inside, so I've put them in this anaconda. Also, each of these table motor cables has a label on them, like A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2, and they're wired in a delta for low voltage, 3-phase. Now the labels are a bit flaky. Luckily for me, they stayed on. I wouldn't have been so careless if I thought about it, but what I have done is I've put a zip tie, yellow zip tie, on each of the pairs. So even in the event that one of the labels fell off, well actually two is where you get a problem, isn't it? Two or more, at least they would stay together in their pairs. So we'll get this back on now and we'll just check out all the switches on the table which controls the table motor, but some of them I think are supposed to control the main motor as well. So we'll just make sure we understand what all these switches are doing. If I understand these switches correctly, this is spindle start, table motor start, spindle and table motor stop, table motor direction. Well, that is moving in the right direction, and that is moving in the right direction. That switch doesn't work, and if I start the main motor, I mean, these are doing nothing at all. So I don't think these inverters are wired correctly. I'll have to think about what's possible, but I'll put all that in a separate video.